was a year older than Fred Hampton. This is a photo of the innocent youth, 22 years of age at the time of his death, Blakk Rasta. Blakk Rasta was born on the 28th day of June in 1947. In fact, and he was born in a suburb of Illinois called Peoria. 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 P-E-O-R-I-A. Peoria. His father was called William Clark, and he was the elder of a church. Please note all these things. My brother, my sister, his mother was called Fanny Clark, nay Fanny Bradley. My father, my sister, my father, my mother, my brother, my uncle. He was born on the 28th day of June in 1948 in Peoria, Illinois, Chicago, to father Elder William Clark and mother Fanny Bradley Clark. My brother, my sister, he went to school at the Manual High School and then later went to the Illinois Central College in East Peoria, his hometown. At a very young age, he was so interested in drawing, he could draw any human being. He was so gifted with that. He could draw anything. And then he also had a very passionate heart for Pan-Africanism. So even by the age of 10, he was already a member of the NAACP. My brother, my sister, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. By the age of 10, he was already a member. And then he joined the BPP, the Black Panther Party, at a very early age. And they had demonstrations against unemployment of black people, the non-inclusion of black people in sports, in the various schools and even beyond. They fought for black liberation. In fact, he was a teenager who was able to control all other teenagers, including adults, with what he said. That was the power given to him. In no time, he and Fred Hampton became very good friends. In fact, the young man you see here, he hardly opened his mouth to speak. He was only full of action. Remember that at the age of 12, his very good friend Fred Hampton, who you see here on the right, initiated a free feeding program of the youth and the children in the area that he was born, Maywood in Illinois. He was feeding little children, as you can see in this photograph. And this is Fred Hampton feeding little children, black children in the area for free, because black children were so hungry in the days because their fathers and mothers would not be employed, all because of the color of their skin. Black fathers and mothers were gunned down in broad daylight and nothing happened. It was like dogs and goats shot on the streets of America. Wild dogs and stray goats. He took it upon himself at the age of 12 to feed little children. That was what became a precursor. Underline the word precursor. Prerequisite, my brother, my sister. The precursor for the BPP's feeding program, free feeding program. Now, when he became a member of the Black Panther Party, and you see some of the members here, my brother, my sister, fighting for the liberation of black people. They started to feed all black people in Illinois, whether you were in Peoria, or you were in Maywood, or you were in Authentic. They fed them for free. But listen to the interesting thing. They were looking for a place, a convergence point where they could feed black people. And nobody was ready to give them a place. Now our hero for today, Blakk, his father was an elder of a church. So a lot of the pastors and men of God knew him. So he moved from one church to the other, asking if the church would allow the Black Panther Party to use their premises to feed people. And he told them, Jesus Christ fed so many people in the valleys and on top of the mountains. I come to you here begging you to let us use your church premises to feed people for free. All the churches in Illinois turned down this proposal and request for fear of the FBI targeting the church and even bombing the church. Little did they know that the lenses of the FBI were already on the Black Panther movement, and especially on Blakk and Fred Hampton and their activities. Hey, they fed black people for free. And that was a very, very big reproach to the government of America. They did all they could to make sure black people survived, no matter how much they squeezed their necks. Black people had a live wire when Fred Hampton and Blakk came out to feed them for free. Hallelujah. It took only one pastor to agree that he would allow them to come to his church premises so that they would have the children in the area and black people fed. After all, Jesus also fed the people. This great pastor was called Pastor Blakk Ramsey. Blakk Ramsey. Blaine is spelled B-E-L-A-I-N-E. Ramsey is R-A-M-S-E-Y. Pastor Blakk Ramsey. My brother, my sister, he agreed to allow his church premises to be used to feed black people. So every day at 12 noon, all black people in the neighborhood would rush to the church premises for free hot meals. Just 2 weeks after the program started, the church members started telling the pastor, please don't let them come here. If they come here, we ain't gonna come here. You know, we ain't gonna come here because we might just be shot and killed. The FBI is bloodthirsty. The government is very bloodthirsty. And we don't wanna come here so that we will be killed. You know how Americans speak. So the pastor, with tears in his eyes, came up and told Blakk, your father is my very good friend. He's a pastor like me. We both preach the word, the gospel of Jesus Christ. There's pressure on me to kick you out of the place. The government is after us. Blakk had tears in his eyes when he was told that the program in the church had been cancelled. Now they were looking for a place to converge and feed black people. All the parks in America refused, the government parks. How were they going to meet and feed black people? My brother, my sister, one day Blakk went and told his mother in the presence of his father, Elder William, he said, Father, I feel in my spirit that any time from now I will die. Please forgive me that I have not been able to live to fulfill the wishes of your hearts. Forgive me that I will not be able to live to be able to raise you out of poverty, to be that engineer that you always wanted me to be so studious and have a college degree and even beyond. And you can see it here. Panther Blakk expected death. In fact, he was interviewed by the Illinois and the Chicago Tribunes. As you can see published here, a very lengthy article. And he said and told the whole of America, after telling his father and mother that he knew that he would be killed and he could feel it in his spirit, but he would never relent. All the churches had refused to even allow their premises to be used to feed hungry people. He knew he would die, but he would not cowardly pull out. He will continue to fight for the liberation of black people. Oh my God. At that point, Fred Hampton called him and said, Mark, today they attempted on my life. They wanted to kill me. They fired a shot at me. He said, what happened, Mark? What happened, Fred? He said, I went out there looking for a place where we could feed our hungry folks. And then I heard the gun back from the forest. I jumped into the water and I swam to the other side. You know what Mark told him? I will be your bodyguard. Because of this, I'm going to take some training in security and more. In fact, a course that was supposed to be done in 1 year, he did it in 2 days. He loved to read and to draw. He read widely. He got to know how to use the gun. And he was able to learn how to hear footsteps from afar and how to tell what shoes any trawler was using. He could tell any shoe that a stalker was using. If you wore a shoe and you were coming in Nicodemously, he trained his ear to be able to tell whether it was police shoes or soldier shoes or even civilian shoes. And by hearing the sound of the gun, he could tell what kind of gun it was. He bought a gun legally, an automatic, and that was what he used to bodyguard Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton had a house. My brother, my sister, it was a beautiful house located right there inside Illinois. Maywood, to be very specific. My brother, my sister, and that was where he was. The address of the house was 2337 West Monroe Street. That was where the house was located. My brother, my sister, on the 4th of December, oh Jesus have mercy. Jesus have mercy. 4th of December, around midnight, this is the house we're talking about, my brethren. That was where Fred Hampton was. But interestingly, Mark could stay several days without sleeping just to be able to take care of his brother, Fred Hampton. He knew that if Fred went down, the Black Panther would suffer. He was the most powerful black man in America. And he was glad to be his 2IC and to be the man that he trusted enough to allow him to bodyguard him. 12 o'clock midnight. Little did our hero for today, Mark Clark, know that the FBI had already bribed a black man who went with food for Fred Hampton because his life was in danger. He never came out to any restaurant. He stayed in his house and they brought him food. And the house was guarded, my brother, my sister, even by the American police, even though he didn't believe the police. And at a point, he sent the police away and brought fellow members of the Black Panther Party to guard his house. My brother, on that fateful day, Fred had his breakfast and he just kept sleeping and sleeping and sleeping. He and his fiancée had a certain slogan: together we live, together we die. In fact, Deborah Johnson, who later became a queer in Jerry, would shout, together we live, and Fred would say, together we die. She would shout, together we live, And Fred will be quiet because he was sleeping the whole day. Little did she know that he was drugged. And this is Deborah Johnson, the fiancée of Fred Hampton at the time. She was also living in the house. My brother, 12 o'clock midnight, my God have mercy. All of a sudden, hey, this man was sleeping. They were looking for a doctor to check him out and see what was wrong. Hey, he was sitting with the gun, awake, fully awake, when one shot from a sniper's gun. You know who a sniper is? They are those who shoot without missing. And they normally have a certain kind of telescope they look through to be able to have clinical precision of the target. Pow! The gun went straight into the heart. One bullet straight into the heart of Mark Clark through the window. Can you believe this? And look at the way the house was. Look at the design of the house. This was where Fred Hampton's bed was. You can see it down there. My brother, my sister. And that was where he was sleeping. And the FBI knew exactly was where and at what point. And Mark Clark was in the other room. And that was the main door. Before you would go to Fred Hampton, you would have to kill him first. And the bullet came through the window. Pow! Straight into his heart. And reflex action. They call it death reflex action. When a man is dying, he could hold on to something whilst he's dying. It's a reflex action. He pressed the trigger of the gun he was holding, and it fired once. Pow! And when the FBI heard the shot, they said the guys are in the house. The guy is not dead. He has just fallen, and we heard him fire. They fired 99 bullets. 99 bullets. Even when they entered the house and realized that Mark was dead from that single shot into his heart at the age of 22, they still fired shots into his body and went straight up to the sleeping Fred Hampton, the drug Fred Hampton. His wife had come to sleep on top of him and was shouting, "Together we live." And she was not hearing, "Together we die. Together we live." No, together we die. Together we live. Together we live. The FBI came in, yanked her out, and fired several bullets into the body of the drugged and sleeping Fred Hampton. Several bullets. And after that, Deborah Johnson heard the FBI say, now he is comfortably dead. Can you believe that? Mark died. In fact, and Fred Hampton also died. They were the two people who died on the day. And you can see the bullets that went through the wall in this photograph. You can see the several bullets that they shot. My brother, my sister, he had already told his father to forgive him. When his mother heard that he had died, she started to wail and to cry. She was wailing and crying, "Oh, Mark." And the father tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Remember," he said, "no crying when he dies. Remember, we had already forgiven him and given him our blessing to die for black people." My God, tears were all over the place, brethren. Everybody was crying. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, was responsible, and it was ruled as homicide. Oh, yes. But nobody was held responsible until the matter went to court, and the American government took responsibility and paid $1.8 million American dollars as compensation for the wrongful killing of Fred Hampton and his colleague who stood firm for the Black Panther and for black people. On the day of their burial, the whole of America came to a standstill, A new group known as the Weather Underground Reaction of black people said they were waging war against the government of America. Every white man will be shot on the street of America, and that the American government will go down. That was the anger on the street at the time. My brother, people came together wailing and crying. Oh my God. Oh, Mark Clark. Mark Clark. Uniyaminko. Yeah. Yeah. Uniyaminko wate. Uniyaminko. Inubeko. Yeah, Mark. Mark. Mese Uniyaminko wate. Uya. Oh, 22. He went down. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Even the father who was telling the mother never to cry, when Mark's body was being lowered into the grave, he took 2 steps forward and looked into the eyes of Mark and said, "My son, permit me to cry for the last time." Yeah, Mark, Mr. Uniyaminko wate, Mr. Minubeko. Yeah, Mark, Mr. Minubeko. Mark, Minubeko wate, Minubeko, Mr. Minubeko. Yeah, Mark. Yeah, double faduye wate, double faduye. Yeah.
Tutu babi.